Welcome to this session on tackling the energy trilemma: security, affordability, sustainability. Thanks for joining this session, which is diving into one of the most urgent and complex challenges facing businesses and governments today. This energy trilemma is no longer a theoretical framework. It's a reality for many people and organisations. Geopolitical tensions, supply disruptions, and price volatility are reshaping how companies think about energy procurement and resilience. At the same time, the climate imperative is accelerating the need for deep decarbonisation. We need to act, and fast. Today's session is designed to explore exactly that. We'll hear from leaders who are not just navigating this landscape, but actively shaping it. We'll look at the next frontier of energy solutions, such as 24/7 carbon-free electricity, that are helping organisations tackle all three dimensions of the trilemma simultaneously. And this conversation couldn't be more timely. Just last month, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol announced draft updates to its Scope 2 guidance, signalling a shift towards more granular time-based accounting for electricity emissions. This is a major development that could redefine how companies report and manage their energy use, and it underscores the growing momentum behind 24/7 strategies. So what's happening today? In this session, we'll start with an in-conversation with Mark McKenna, the Global Sustainability Director at Arcadis, and Jenny Kwan, Director of Climate Action at the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. They'll set the scene on the current energy landscape, what's changing, what's challenging, and what's possible. We'll then move into a panel discussion, and we'll hear from experts across technology, policy, and corporate leadership about how they're deploying 24/7 carbon-free electricity, as well as a number of other innovations. And finally, we'll close with the presentation and remarks from Rachel Swiatek of Climate Group, spotlighting the pioneering work of the 24/7 Carbon-Free Coalition. So thank you again for joining today, and we'll get started and get practical about solving this energy trilemma. So over to you, Jenny, to start the next piece. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the session. I hope you're enjoying the day so far. Thanks for joining us for the session today, where we get practical on solving this energy trilemma. My name is Jenny Kwan. I'm a Director of Climate Action at WBCSD. WBCSD is a business-led global platform working to accelerate decarbonisation while integrating nature and people considerations into those key business decisions. We're also working to improve business resilience. Given the uncertain world we live in right now, combined with increasing extreme weather events, I would echo Mike in adding resilience as an overall framework to the energy trilemma of security, affordability, and sustainability. So to kick it off, I'm delighted to welcome Mark McKenna, Global Sustainability Director at Arcadis, on stage with me today. Arcadis is well known for its sustainability work, and I know that Mark will share some great insights today. So let's dive right in. I'd love to start with a bit of context. Maybe you can say a little bit about Arcadis' mission and what you're doing to drive the energy transition.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jenny, and glad to see you here today, and really pleased to be in this session on what is a really important topic, I think transcends sectors, economies, and businesses as well. So Arcadis is a global engineering and advisory firm headquartered in Amsterdam, but 40% of our business is actually here in the US, and we have 36,000 people globally. Arcadis' mission is to improve quality of life. Our strategy is to accelerate a planet-positive future, and we do that by making sustainable project choices, which is a core pillar of our strategy. What that means from an energy standpoint is energy modernization with a clear focus on resilience from an energy affordability, security, and of course, clean energy future perspective.
Great, so it's really interesting to see how you're really integrating it into your clients' projects and into the decision-making in this landscape. So as a key actor in the space, from what you're seeing, how have you seen the energy landscape evolving in recent years, particularly in terms of clean energy deployment, grid stability, and resilience and market dynamics?
Well, I think I think the challenges facing energy, the energy value chain, call it, are probably widely known to certainly people in this room and many other learned professionals. But I think one of the benefits that Arcadis has is, I mentioned that we're engineers and advisors, but we're also planners. We support the due diligence aspect of energy systems and solutions and permitting and so forth. So we do have that purview across the energy landscape that gives us a really good handle on the real challenges facing energy. So I think, like I said, those challenges are probably well known to many, but the most obvious one is, of course, the exponential rise in energy demand, driven by the tech sector as one source of that, but it's across other sectors. And ironically, if you said 10 years ago that energy and water scarcity would be an issue, I don't think you would have had much agreement. But we actually are facing a scenario where we cannot generate enough energy to support this exponential rise in energy demand from AI at a rate that we still don't really know how fast it's going to go. So we know that it's faster than we thought it was going to be 2 years ago, but we don't know quite how fast it's really going to go afterwards. So that is undoubtedly a challenge. At the same time, the provisions that we have, the energy backbones that serve our economy, need to be modernized. And that was, again, something that has always, certainly for the last 10 or so years, we've known that energy modernization of the infrastructure backbone was important. But again, the pressure that has come on board because of that exponential rise in demand has really placed, in some cases, unrealistic pressure on those owners and managers of the infrastructure. I can certainly talk a bit more, but those for me are two big things that have a resilience angle and affordability angle, because of course, with increased cost comes, in many cases, the indiscriminate pass down of cost to the consumer. But I'll stop there and leave it with you.
Thanks, Mark. I've been at other events so far in Climate Week, and people are talking about the new additions to the grid are clean energy, but we're not yet in an energy transition world. We're in an energy addition world that we're just, people are seeing everywhere, this exponential rise in demand for energy. So it's difficult to then transition into a more decarbonized grid. So maybe you could briefly describe this energy trilemma in practice. Do you see conflict between them, or where have you seen conflict between the affordability, security, and sustainability, and where do you see maybe co-benefits?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think I love your lead in there around energy addition, because again, for the learned audience here, you'll be familiar with this, but there is certainly a misconception around the technology transition versus technology addition, because technology is only part of the challenge facing the shift towards a clean energy future. So when people ask me about the trilemma, they say, well, are we creating, why are we here? Why are we in this problem? And if you think about all the elements that form this conundrum, they're all generally in a place of goodwill and progress. So everyone wants clean energy, everyone wants affordable energy, and no one wants the lights to go off. It's just when you put those together that this is when the problem is exacerbated, which we could talk about later. But what we're noticing is, and I mentioned this before, the cost of capital for deployment is certainly still a barrier, because we are, from a construction and a commodities point of view, in many cases still in an inflationary environment. And that is not necessarily as clear, because we've seen inflation in other parts of the economy come down, but just the cost of infrastructure is growing significantly. And so you have a scenario where, whether it's an economy, a pressure from business, a desire to move towards more diverse, sustainable forms of energy, but this really upfront short-term barrier of deployment, because the cost is indigestible, I think, for some of the asset owners and lessors. So that really is the huge challenge, I think, at the moment. It's okay to say we need to spend more now to modernize infrastructure because it'll cost more later, but if you don't have it, then that's kind of the root, that's the reality of the situation. So I think upfront capital is certainly a huge issue for us. I would also say, and this is probably obvious, that just the difference in policy instruments and incentives to really help drive the business case is really fragmented still across the world. Mm-hmm. So I think from a global perspective in Arcadis, we see that, but we know that not everyone gets that purview to see, where we're getting successes in some regions and how we can shift technology or financial instruments and planning and permitting approaches into areas that maybe that would be ripe for moving faster. But yeah, that's definitely another challenge, is just that fragmented set of policies and incentives for sure.
Yeah, so I guess on any given day, you'll see areas where you're like, okay, great, things are unlocking and we can move faster here, and conversely, in other areas, you're going, oh, okay, another barrier, how do we overcome this one?
Yeah, absolutely, I think that's true, yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at corporates, what kind of role do you think they can play in helping to solve and get practical on solving this energy trilemma?
Look, I think it depends on your perspective. So, like I said before, the trilemma is caused by a desire to progress in all those areas. And we know that public financing of clean or diverse energy infrastructure is a challenge, which then means that private sector has to come to the table, but in a way that the private sector can digest. And that is just the reality of how our economics work. Is the private sector sometimes conservative from a business case perspective? Maybe. So maybe that is in some ways something that the private sector could do more of, which is reach further, acknowledging that the long-term benefits are pretty profound to making that diverse energy addition and transition. But yeah, for sure, that's what I think the private sector's role is. At the same time, like I said, much of the private sector, if not, the majority of businesses have net zero targets, and they have their own expectations for clean energy deployment. And so in a lot of cases, they are driving faster than some economies and some governments to push for a clean energy future. So I think the private sector, there's definitely pluses and minuses to our role, and I think we need to be conscious of that as well.
Yeah, so these short-term kind of profit pressures and business case pressures, but also a long-term view on resilience and having some kind of redundancy in the system. You can't be lean everywhere, because when extreme weather events happen, then you need some buffer in the system to be able to still continue to operate.
Yeah, right.
So maybe just a last word shortly. What does a resilient and sustainable energy system look like to you, Mark?
Well, I think, and I kind of touched on this before, the diversity of energy technology has to be part of a sustainable future. It's as much as, in Arcadis, for example, our mission is to improve quality of life and accelerate a planet-positive future. That means getting to net zero as fast as we can, but we know we need to realize the realities which is that depending on the economy, the politics, the incentives, some will move faster than others, and therefore you need to deploy much more diverse energy sources. So I think we need to recognize that is the reality, certainly for the next 10 to 15 years, that it's not a switch out of fossil fuels to renewables. It is a progression as fast and as practical as we can to balance out affordability and keep, maintain continuity. So that's certainly one of those, that's certainly key to that sustainable future. Now, this also may sound cliche, but one of the things that I would say in the engineering and advisory sector, something we're getting better at, is partnering. Mm-hmm. So we know we are one actor in the entire value chain from an energy standpoint, but we also know we need to more aggressively partner with others to make sure that we can, get value and get towards that clean, affordable energy future we like. Which is why we're pleased to today announce our partnership with Schneider Electric for their Accelerating Resilient Infrastructure initiative. And that is really set out to help deploy energy infrastructure, which is right for incentives at that microgrid scale, to try and, again, just where we have opportunity, make sure we're pushing as hard as we can and getting some of the best companies to help us get there.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark, for helping to unpack some of the complexities of this, and congratulations on the partnership. I think it'll make a big impact.
Thanks, Jenny.
So please join me in thanking Mark for his remarks. And now to dive deeper into the solutions and strategies that are shaping global decarbonization, I'm delighted to welcome our panelists to the stage. So please join me in welcoming Catherine Chandra, the Energy Transition Director at AirTrunk, and Alex Piper, Head of US Policy and Markets at Energy Tag. Alex, Catherine, great to see you here today.
Yeah, good to see you.
So we've just heard how businesses like Arcadis are helping to drive the energy transition. And now we're going to dig deeper into some of the solutions to address this complex balancing act between security, affordability, sustainability, and creating an overall more resilient energy system. So one of the approaches gaining attention now is 24/7 carbon-free electricity. Climate-conscious businesses currently measure electricity and match it with renewables annually. 24/7 carbon-free electricity offers the next step, increasing the granularity to match electricity hourly with supplies from the same grid or from the market where it's generated. And it's just one part of a broader landscape of innovation and policy reform. So let's explore what it will take to move from ambition into action and how different strategies can work together. So Alex, I'd like to start with you. Granular matching has been described as a key enabler of deep decarbonization. How do you see it being able to solve the energy trilemma, ensuring clean energy is delivered in a both secure and affordable way?
Yeah, absolutely. So granular matching, this idea of matching real supply to electricity consumption, this is how the grid already operates today, and this advancement is really about accounting for what kinds of operations are being supplied and then consumed in real time and in real space. And the reason it's being described as such an important feature of advanced energy procurement is that it achieves three key fundamental elements. One is that it's effective. So the academic research and the analysis demonstrates that this kind of procurement is what's going to drive a full suite of clean energy resources, storage, clean, firm, long duration storage that are needed for a fully decarbonized grid. This sends the investment signals for those technologies to be deployed, and then we will see clean electricity being supplied in real time and in real space to that consumption, and that's sort of the flywheel towards a fully decarbonized grid everywhere all the time. Number two, it's efficient and therefore long-run affordable. So what I mean by efficient is right now, as we decarbonize with sort of annually matched clean energy targets, we're sort of deploying intermittent renewables, and then we're asking grid operators to balance that out and make sure the grid continues to operate reliably. With 24/7 or with granular matching as sort of a journey towards a fully decarbonized grid, we're actually deploying the resources that are aligned with demand in real time. So when you pair renewables with storage, or when you deploy clean, firm technologies alongside renewables, you're doing the sort of grid reliability work that otherwise needs to be done in a more costly and sort of ad hoc way. And those long-run savings get passed on to ratepayers. And that's sort of a system-wide benefit and system-wide cost savings that you don't get without this granular matching strategy. There's a recent study from Transition Zero on India's grid that showed with even 80% hourly matched clean electricity in India, $1 billion a year can be saved system-wide. And that can be passed on. And right now, with ratepayers having to face, especially in the US, significant rising costs, that is a massive system-wide savings. Number three, this is feasible. This is how the grid already works. It's really about now applying that same fundamental theory to clean electricity and consumption. There are companies like FlexiDAO who are doing this at a global scale right now. And there's plenty of examples of other companies and utilities and suppliers and buyers that are all matching on an hourly basis. And to be very clear, 24/7 is a moniker for this sort of hourly and locational matching, but it is a journey, and it's a really important journey to start. It is not an all-in or all-out situation. So these benefits and this importance matters every step along the way, not just when you've achieved that final end goal.
Great, thanks, Alex. That's a really great foundation to understanding how more precise energy tracking can lead to system-wide change through reducing the costs, understanding where the demand is, and also catalyzing investment into the area. So now let's hear about how one company is putting it into practice. So Catherine, AirTrunk is leading the way with climate leadership across Asia Pacific. What energy procurement strategy is AirTrunk adopting to tackle the current energy landscape?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. Thanks, everyone, for being here. So for context, AirTrunk is a hyperscale data center operating in Singapore, Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. And we have net zero target by 2030. To achieve that, we are looking into 3 key areas. The first one is energy savings. We are always optimizing PUE and energy efficiency across the life cycle of our data centers. So how do we do that? We advise our customers on the most energy efficient configuration, including the use of some new and innovative technology solutions. A good example is how AirTrunk pioneered large-scale liquid cooling innovation in our data center in Johor to enable low design PUE that to realize energy savings up to 23%. The second approach is renewable sourcing. In markets where renewable procurement framework is robust, we partner with customers and solution providers to leverage on the available options. For example, in Australia, we have a landmark partnership with Google driving development of a new 25 megawatt solar farm. In Malaysia, we partner with IBVOG, renewable developer, to build a new 30 megawatt solar farm and that's the first data center virtual PPA. In markets where renewable procurement is limited, we advocate for more robust renewable procurement, collaborating with industry stakeholders. The third one is supporting power grid. We see utilities as partners. So we work together with them for grid optimization, for grid support, as well as flexibility, including exploring energy storage and other clean firming technology solutions.
Great, thank you so much, Catherine. And it's encouraging to see how business strategy and sustainability are really reinforcing each other, and also to hear about the partnerships that you're making to make that happen. And like Mark said, partnerships are part of this, and collaborative action is what's going to really drive this change forward. Great, so maybe staying with a corporate perspective, but moving to you, Alex. Do you see that the 24/7 carbon electricity becoming a standard expectation for corporate sustainability, or will it remain something only for the leadership?
Yeah, I think it comes back a little bit to this journey idea. I see granular accounting becoming the standard for corporations. So understanding exactly what your scope 2 emissions look like based on when you are procuring or when you are using electricity and where that electricity is coming from, I think needs to be standardized. As far as then what corporations choose to do about their procurement and whether they choose to go down this 24/7 path or choose other procurement pathways is a little bit up to them and sort of something maybe the market will help to influence. But the fundamental key will be transparency and honesty about what scope 2 emissions actually look like. So right now, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol is undergoing revision on their Scope 2 process, and the current direction of travel looks like it will be moving towards this more hourly and location-matched requirement for inventory accounting. And now, again, that's different than 24/7, and like I said, 24/7 being the sort of aspirational target that companies will work towards, and we highly encourage for all the reasons I mentioned before. But it doesn't necessarily need to be this, again, we are 24/7 or we are not. It really needs to be about what are we using and when, and what is the impact of that, and then what are we going to do about it. The Science Based Targets Initiative is also updating their Scope 2 target standard, and that's for companies that want to say, yes, I want to demonstrate a level of leadership and commitment to being aligned with the net zero world. And that standard is likely to point to the Greenhouse Gas Protocol for its accounting, and then require certain targets to decarbonize and to meet over time. And that, of course, is, by definition, I would say, a leadership initiative, because it's really for companies saying, I want to be seen, I want to be known, I want to be able to claim that I am driving towards this net zero, climate-aligned world. And in that case, yes, moving towards 24/7 should be what is required. That is sort of just meeting reality where it is in the clean energy transition. But in the meantime, for smaller companies, for companies that have less resources, just starting with the accounting, knowing what the Scope 2 emissions are, and then moving slowly towards greater and greater alignment on a locational and hourly basis is what's really, really most important. And in the protocol updates, I do want to be very clear, this is not every company everywhere all the time will have to do hourly tomorrow, hourly accounting tomorrow. That's not what the standard is going to say. There's going to be a runway, there's going to be threshold, load threshold buffers. So if you're a small company operating in a few different grids, you likely won't have to do complicated hourly accounting unless you want to. So there's going to be a number of ways in which this is very feasible and doable for companies as well. And it's really going to put the onus on those super, super large, significant energy users with resources to really move this kind of progress forward. And then small, medium enterprises can kind of step in and say, great, now there's solutions for me, now there's strategies for me, there's contract language. I can step in and start to use all of that.
Great, thanks. And it's great to hear how the system is supporting the innovations that are needed and hopefully creating data that creates useful for business decisions rather than just creating data for data's sake. So hopefully people are able to deploy capital and different other kind of procurement when they understand what their demand is more based on these accounting. And also good news that Greenhouse Gas Protocol and ISO are coming together. So there's also standards harmonization happening in the system so that you're not trying to guess which standard should we align to. There's some alignment happening in the system as well. Great, so it would be great to hear from you, Catherine. What motivated AirTrunk to pursue a 24/7 carbon-free electricity strategy, and what business value do you see in going beyond annual matching?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. So as hyperscale data center continuously operating in the Asia-Pacific and Japan region, we face high energy demand around the clock. This creates both responsibility and opportunity for us to lead the transition from annual renewable matching to hourly carbon-free electricity. 24/7 CFE is not just an ambition, it's a strategic imperative, and it's a critical enabler to full grid decarbonization as well as a longer net zero outcomes. A pioneering example is our collaboration with Microsoft and CLP Power, which is the Hong Kong utility in Hong Kong. It is Asia's first 24/7 clean energy matching project back in 2022. So we are matching the hourly electricity consumption with hourly renewable generation. Grid decarbonization is a local affair. So our success in building local 24/7 solution in Hong Kong, despite the very challenging supply situations, is a prime example of energy security in action. And it's a great encouragement that 24/7 CFE is possible. So following the success of that project in 2023, AirTrunk published 24/7 white paper with support of McKinsey, mapping out pathways to achieve 24/7 CFE in Asia Pacific and Japan. The key to driving wide adoption of 24/7 CFE among the large energy user will be narrowing the cost gap. And in the report, it's available in our website, by the way. In the report, they outline 6 actions. I'll mention 3. So increase and strengthen regional interconnection, accelerate storage and firm technology, and start discussion to achieve 24/7 clean electricity, which has been happening this week.
Great. So as Mark was talking about the business case, and for some companies, it's like increasing costs, the energy transition. It's great to see all these initiatives that are really driving down costs and also accelerating innovation in the system. So maybe, Alex, you've alluded to how 24/7, this more granular matching is driving innovation. Could you say a little bit more about how it's really catalyzing innovation in long-term energy storage and other innovations needed for the energy transition?
Yeah, certainly. So granular matching, again, at its core is saying when are you using electricity and then where and when is clean electricity being produced. If they're not aligned, that's going to send a signal that there needs to be clean electricity during that time or in that place, as long as the demand is there, which it is, and it's going to continue to be. And so as we see sort of gaps in time and space, that is sort of what drives that investment signal. So you can imagine in the evening, as solar ramps down, maybe wind ramps up a little bit in some places, but what we really need is now to shift a lot of that solar overproduction from the middle of the day into those evening, and that's a storage piece. So that sends a signal that we need more storage in places where that is happening. We're going to need long duration storage, so we can't rely on short-term lithium ion everywhere. We'll need 8-hour batteries to do seasonal shifting. We'll need, over the course of a day, if it's cloudy, we know that renewables are intermittent, and we also have the solutions to make them firm and dispatchable. And that's what this sort of investment signal is going towards. And that's the same for nuclear, for geothermal, and other clean, firm sources. It's really about, today you can say, I have this solar plant over here, and I'm good for the whole year. I can run my operations at night, I can do it whenever, and I'll just point to that solar the whole time. What granular matching says is, okay, if I want to run operations at night, where is that clean electricity coming from? Is it coming from battery storage? Is it coming from geothermal? If it's not, I know that that's a place where we need to invest and to catalyze new technologies.
Great, so it's not just about granular matching, it's actually having a more granular data set and understanding exactly where demand is and what kind of energy is being used at different types. And so if you want to move to more carbon-free electricity, or you want to decarbonize your electricity and reduce your scope 2, therefore you know where you need to go. Great, thanks. So maybe let's wrap up now with just looking ahead. What's one action you both would like to see to help solve the energy trilemma and create a more resilient energy system? Maybe I'll start with you, Catherine.
Sure. So through our involvement in the 24/7 Coalition as a founding partner, I learned that the 24/7 CFE ecosystem has been built in the US and in Europe. So we see suppliers offering 24/7 CFE products. In Asia Pacific, ETRANG is initiating a lot of conversations with renewable developers, solution technology providers, governments, regulators to speak about how we can progress with 24/7 CFE in the region. So one thing I would like to see is collaboration. It is so essential for us to collaborate across industry, across geography, and how we can together as a community or as an ecosystem drive 24/7 adoption across the globe. We'd love to see more conversations happening among stakeholders, collaboration across regions, knowledge transfer and learning between corporates, governments, solution providers. We can leverage each other's superpower and accelerate progress.
Great, love it. Superpower sharing and collaborative action. Alex?
Energy Tag, we're a global nonprofit. I focus a lot on our US market and policy work, so my answer might be a little bit US pointing, but I would love for policymakers and regulators at the state level to really understand the dynamics we've been talking about today, and then to set requirements and to put guardrails on large energy users, and especially new demand coming onto the system. So we're all hyper aware of the data center demand growth challenges that regions are facing, both from a reliability standpoint and now from an affordability standpoint. There is yet to be real coordinated effort from regulatory or policymaker spaces to say, what are you, new large demand, doing about the strain and the economic strain you're putting onto our system. And one solution to that, there's actually a bill in Congress about this, the Clean Cloud Act, would be to require new hourly matched and locationally sourced clean electricity to match that large energy users' demand. That puts the sort of onus on these grid straining operations to have to bring to the table the clean electricity that they are already claiming to use via these annually matched mechanisms, but to actually bring it to bear in that grid, reduce the strain on the grid physically, and then also to support the downward pressure on rates for ratepayers in that area. This system, or this sort of regulation, would help avoid some of the situations that we are actively seeing right now. Right now there is a Meta data center going to Louisiana where gigawatts of new gas are coming online to meet that demand. Meta is also investing in solar elsewhere, as we know, producing during the daytime, and claiming kind of full clean offsetting there. But we know that new gas is coming on the system. That is a real fact that is happening as a result of this new demand, because there's really no reason for Meta, based on incentives for reporting right now, and certainly for regulatory, to do anything but that. And that's just something we can't afford. Is it better than nothing? Yes, it's better than nothing, but I don't think nothing should be what we are holding ourselves to in this moment.
Thanks, Alex. But as we've been saying, this is a really complex system, and as Mark and I were discussing, right now we're still in an energy addition world rather than energy transition. So how do we continue to meet this new demand that's coming onto the grid, but understanding where exactly the demand spots are and what kind of demand is necessary, what kind of peaks will help with getting this innovation. And Mark was also alluding to fragmentation in the policy system, which doesn't help global companies understand the entire landscape and really deploy things in a logical way. And it would be great to have, while we're wishing for better policy around this to incentivize good action, also, if it incentivizes innovation around reducing the costs and bringing energy to where it's needed in an affordable and secure and sustainable way, then that would be the best kind of policy possible.
Agreed.
So thank you both for this really forward-looking discussion. And I think from my takeaway from this is we really need some bold action and collective action, bringing to bear our superpowers to work together to figure out how to make the system really work in a way that makes sense for business and makes sense for the communities and the governments and the energy providers that are there. So please join me in thanking our panelists, Alex Piper and Catherine Chandra. So now, to highlight the strength in collective action, I'm delighted to welcome Rachel Swiatek, the Senior Manager of Climate Group's latest initiative, the 24/7 Carbon-Free Coalition, to the stage. Is Rachel there? Great.
Well, what a powerful panel discussion we've just had. And I liked the focus at the end there on just one action that would make progress here, particularly Catherine mentioning collaboration, as that's exactly what we're all here doing today. So we've heard about the energy trilemma: security, affordability, and sustainability, and how each challenge demands bold, coordinated action. The 24/7 Carbon-Free Coalition is where those threads converge. It's not just a technical solution, it's a movement, and it's growing. In the past few months, we've seen the Greenhouse Gas Protocol release draft updates to its Scope 2 guidance, demonstrating the direction of travel towards granular matching. And this is against a backdrop of other policies from across the world, from Ireland to Taiwan, making the shift. The game is changing. We're returning to Climate Week today, having published a global framework for corporates to measure and report progress towards 24/7 carbon-free electricity. The creation of this framework marks an important step forward. It will support corporates on their journeys to procure 100% carbon-free electricity every hour of every day. It tackles important and fundamental aspects such as carbon-free energy resources included, incorporation of storage solutions, and geographic market boundaries. We're incredibly proud of this milestone, and it wouldn't have been possible without the support of our corporate and technical partners. I would like to say a huge thank you to Constellation, Electricity Maps, Energy Tag, FlexiDAO, Good Energy, Granular Energy, Level 10 Energy, Octopus Energy, and RMI. As well as a special thank you to our Technical Advisory Group Chair, Wilson Ricks of Princeton University. You've left big shoes to fill, but we are confident our new chair, Killian Daly of Energy Tag, will be able to. Killian, our technical experts and corporate partners are now entering a 2-year testing period of testing and updating the technical criteria. This is real-world, real-time progress. And yet, we find many businesses are still waiting for the sign to start their journey. Well, this is your sign. And it can't be ignored. We're speaking with leaders across industries embarking on their 24/7 journeys, with some already trialing 24/7 today. The message is clear. Acting now means having the insights to set yourself up for success. So will you choose to stand at the sidelines or at the front of the pack? In the coming months, we are working closely with leading corporate partners. Together, we will be testing our framework, developing the reporting infrastructure, organizing workshops tackling supply-side issues, and advocating for policy change. This is the infrastructure of a movement, and it's being built by those bold enough to shape the future. In spring next year, we'll announce the world's first corporate commitment structure designed to take us from where we are today to carbon-free electricity every hour, every day, everywhere, and the pioneering corporates who will be committing to this journey. Our movement is gaining momentum, and we would like you to join us. So scan the QR code to sign up to the 24/7 newsletter, sent every other month. This is the best way to stay up to date with the 24/7 Coalition's developments and announcements in the wider ecosystem. As part of our ongoing commitment to prepare corporates for 24/7 carbon-free electricity, we will be inviting our newsletter subscribers to an upcoming webinar on how the regulation and policy landscape is changing and what it means for you. In signing up to our newsletter, you will have the option of expressing your interest in finding out more on how your organization can join the 24/7 Coalition. As we speak, we are welcoming new corporate partners. So please feel free to also talk to me after this session if you're interested in joining the 24/7 Carbon-Free Coalition. Now, just before I draw this session to a close, I will leave you with a short video. And remember, get ahead of regulation change, get early insights, shape the movement, join the 24/7 Coalition. Thank you.